Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Rick Brown. Before I introduce my guest today, I want to share a quick statistic with you. According to Brandwatch, which is a leading social intelligence company, 2/3 of the world's millionaires use the tool that we're going to discuss today. 2/3 of the world's millionaires, yet only 17% of U.S. small businesses use it. So clearly there's a huge disconnect there, and I personally think that this tool is vastly misunderstood by a lot of small business owners, myself included, I'll admit that. So when our team kind of sat around and started talking about this topic, I knew immediately who I had to go to in order to gain a better understanding of how to more effectively use the social media platform LinkedIn. My guest today is Mike Shelah, founder of Mike Shelah Consulting. Now, Mike and I first met, 2010, 2011, something like that. We've sat in many networking meetings together, and I can say beyond a shadow of a doubt that Mike is an absolute authority when it comes to not only understanding how to meet the right people, but how to get to that desired point of contact faster using LinkedIn. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on the show, Rick. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Generally speaking, I think there's this mindset out there that LinkedIn is primarily a place for job seekers. You post your resume, go away for 30 days, and hope that somebody magically stumbles across your profile and offers you your dream job. Is that what you're seeing, and is that an accurate assessment of what LinkedIn has to offer?
Well, like so many statements in the world, it's a partial truth. That's how LinkedIn started. It was really the professional online resume platform. The idea you have your professional content out there, and then recruiters and hiring managers can search for you and find you. And over the years, it's evolved because it's become so incredibly valuable to just about every facet of life. Now, I'm a salesperson by trade. That's how I got my passion and my excitement around using LinkedIn. It is equally valuable for, as you mentioned, small business owners, entrepreneurs, people in the job market, college students ready to enter the workforce, people trying to raise funds for a nonprofit. The scope and reach to this platform really is exceptional.
So you and I talked earlier about this, and this was something really interesting that you said to me. And I don't particularly consider myself a salesman, a salesperson, but I think you have a little different view on that little piece of salesperson that's in everybody, right?
Yes. Well, two things to go with that. First, I'm a book nerd, and I would encourage your audience to read To Sell is Human by Daniel H. Pink. In that book, he talks about the fact that 20% of the professional world is categorized into what you and I would think of as a salesperson. And then the other 80% have to sell something at some point in their lives. And to the conversation that you and I had, I speak in front of college students all the time, showing them how to use LinkedIn to find a job after they graduate. And one of the qualifiers I give at the beginning of the conversation is, many of you are looking at me saying, well, I don't want to be a salesperson. What can you possibly teach me? And I will ask the class, how many of you want to be self-employed, or you want to be an entrepreneur, own your own business? And I'll usually get quite a few hands that raise up for that. And I say to them, well, I hate to break it to you, but that's selling.
That strikes me as something that, if you're going to look inwards toward yourself, you have to come to grips with that and understand how to best do that. So how can LinkedIn help us do that better?
Well, the first thing to take everyone's minds to a place of ease is you don't have to become a salesperson to effectively use LinkedIn or be an effective entrepreneur or find a job. You have to be open to a sales mentality, to that process. And the first thing that people need to understand is, who is your audience? Great example. If you're on LinkedIn, what is your purpose at that moment? Are you looking for a job? Are you looking for a candidate? Are you looking for a vendor? Are you a business owner that needs to find a vendor to solve a problem for your business? Are you the executive director of a nonprofit that needs to raise more funds, or you're looking for a new member of your board of directors? So first is understand who is your immediate audience for the task that you want to accomplish right now. Because once you understand who that person is, we can start to assign labels for them. Now, I'll give you a personal story. When I first started Mike Shelah Consulting, I thought that my clients would be individual sales professionals looking to generate more sales. And I also thought that companies that would hire me, I would get hired by the director of sales, the vice president of sales, people like that. And I found out that I was wrong. So for my business, the companies that hired me, I was hired by the marketing director. And what I came to learn was a lot of marketing directors are involved in the ongoing training of their companies. So with that, they often work with the HR director. So I would work with the two in tandem. So once you understand who your audience is and you can assign a title to them, then you can start to filter and refine your list to a highly targeted group of people to approach.
Yeah, that's interesting because I think a lot of small business owners, especially in the beginning, really struggle with identifying not only their customer, but in more specifically in this case, who that right point of contact is. So how do you take then that information into LinkedIn and
Sure.
have it benefit you?
Well, if you're sitting in the seat of an entrepreneur, your business does something, right?
Mm-hmm.
It either provides a product or a service, or maybe it does both. So the question is, who does that service serve? I'll use my previous background in telecommunications. I was providing telephone service and internet access to businesses. Now, everybody in the business uses that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the size of the company would dictate who my point of contact was, who my decision maker was. Most of the time, it was the director of IT. It was the CIO. As I got into bigger, more sophisticated business deals, I would also be pulling in the COO and even the CFO because operations and finance needed to have a say to make the project go. So for most of your entrepreneurs, they're going to touch either finance, operations, or technology with their product from a decision maker standpoint. And then it's the question of, do you want to approach at the director level? Do you want to approach the C level? Because that's really going to be dictated by where is your product targeted. So is your product targeted to mid-market customers? Are you targeting small, medium business exclusive, whereas 9 times out of 10 you're dealing with the owner and or a partner and or the office manager?
And so do you look for them via the individual profiles? Are you looking in LinkedIn groups?
I love LinkedIn groups. So the part of the answer is yes. What you want to do is, let's say that you know that your product really suits the small, medium business. So you're going to talk to the owner more often than not, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I type owner into LinkedIn, let's see how many results I get when I type in owner. I get 21 million.
Oh, holy smokes.
That's a really big number. I can't wrap my head around that, right? So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch it to second-degree connections. Here's why that's important. I want to talk to owners that know at least one person that I do.
Why?
Because that's the power of influence. I'm going to do what I call leveraging and borrowing trust. Now, once I did that, I have 111,000. Still a really big number. So now I'm going to refine it down to a location, and I'm going to choose Baltimore because that's where I do my business. So now I have 19,000. That's still a really big number. Now, LinkedIn has this great feature called All Filters. And by the way, everything I'm talking about today, you can use on the free platform. You don't need a premium account to use any of these services. And there's all different current companies, past companies, industries. So if you know that your product works in the tech sector or real estate or construction, then you can focus on an industry. What I like to do is I like to leverage my college education. So I can choose people that went to UMBC. So now I have a list of 690 people in the Baltimore area that have owner in their title that know at least one person that I do that went to UMBC. This is a highly qualified prospect list for me if my target audience is a small business owner.
Wow, that's pretty powerful, and I don't know that. Well, I know I'll speak for myself. Doing a search like that is not something that I've really ever considered, but you can really get that narrowed down. And I asked you why you wanted to connect with somebody who at least has one person that you know, and I really do understand that. And this was, at least early on, this was a big piece of LinkedIn, was that it was a networking platform, still is, but based on making introductions, right? And not just randomly reaching out to strangers like we do on some of the other social media sites. We really want to have that connection.
Yes, and it still is that way. So on Facebook, if you see someone's profile, you can send them a friend request, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. The person can choose to accept or not, right? Mm-hmm. And Twitter, you could follow anybody that doesn't have a locked account, and they can't kick you off unless you do something bad, right?
Even
LinkedIn LinkedIn operates differently. As policy, LinkedIn doesn't want you to reach out to connect with people that you don't already know. And that gets back to the networking. You want to borrow and leverage trust. I'll give you a great example. I got a meeting with the director of IT for McCormick Spice here in Baltimore because it turned out that I knew her cousin. Now, when I asked for the introduction, I didn't know that was her cousin. I just knew that Jim was somebody that I knew really well, and I had a high level of confidence that if I asked him to introduce me, he would say yes. And it just happened to be that he was one of many contacts I had with her, and he happened to be her cousin, which almost guarantees you a meeting. And I did have a meeting with her, a very productive one.
So you mentioned a moment ago that everything you're talking about here can be done with the free membership. So
correct.
Which leads me to that there is a paid membership. Is that LinkedIn Premium?
There's several. There's a job search one. There's Premium. There's Sales Navigator, and then there's Recruiter.
Are any of them worth the money?
Well, I have a premium account, and I have it functionally for one reason, and I've discovered two other fringe benefits that go with. First, what I just showed you, refining that list down, that's a search. And actually, every time I made a refinement to it, that was another search. On the free platform, LinkedIn gives you a limited number of searches every month. And then it will restrict what you can see. So you can still search, but it only show you the top 3 results of a group of 100 or 1,000 or even 10,000, which is not terribly productive. And I got my premium account when they made that change, because it used to be that the free account had unlimited searches. And when they switched it without telling me, I went through all of my searches in the first week of the month. And I was seeing this little notification, you should try LinkedIn Premium for free. And like, why should I do that? And I reached out to their limited customer service, and they said, oh, well, that's now a paid feature. That's no longer free.
Yeah, and I think we've probably all seen those messages on there if you use LinkedIn at all. I recall seeing several of those images, and I actually went to Premium here probably about a year ago. So, yeah, very, very interesting. So let's talk about what we should be doing on LinkedIn in terms of, should we be visiting daily? Is this the same as a Facebook? Are we on there or dare I say hours a day? Is this how are we posting regularly? What kind of content should we be putting out there?
Well, you've asked two really important questions. To the first, how often should you be on there? I answer that with a question. What are you trying to accomplish? If you simply want to stay top of mind, engage your audience, then you don't even need to be there on a daily basis. But if the idea is for someone in my role as a small business owner or a sales professional, salespeople have one job: find new clients, right?
Yeah.
And that starts with getting an introduction, having a meeting, listening to the needs, the whole sales process, signing contract, and then moving it on to the implementation team. For the entrepreneur, it's very different because they really have to cover every phase of the business. So they not only have to find the client, but more often than not, they're implementing the solution for the client, and they're billing the client, and they're providing service for the client. So they're doing everything.
Right.
So their time is at a premium. So my recommendation is figure out what your cadence is going to be. If you create that list that I just worked through as an exercise and get your 690 people, how many introductions can you ask for in 30 minutes? And that's a rhetorical question because it's going to be a little different for everyone. But if you're willing to give 30 minutes every morning to developing more business, and you do that for a month, so you do that Monday through Friday, first thing in the morning, for a month, you'll have so many new client opportunities that you literally won't know what to do with yourself.
Yeah, that sounds very doable.
And then with that, sales professionals, they could spend a lot more time. And you may look at strategically using LinkedIn from a marketing or a brand awareness standpoint, keeping the information out there. My day job, I work for Ricoh. And my biggest challenge with that is people hear the word Ricoh and they say, oh, photocopiers. Yes, that is one thing that we do. It's one of about 1,000 things that we do from a technology standpoint. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn telling people, hey, we do all these other things too. Look at all the different ways that we can help your business other than sell you a copier.
So that brings me to the second part of that question. What kind of stuff should we be posting? What kind of content is most effective?
That really comes down to what are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to attract new clients? Are you trying to position yourself as a thought leader? So you can share awareness marketing. We have an event coming up. We have a promotion. We'll give you 30% off. Awareness marketing things. The best tends to be when you are either writing your own content or sharing other content relevant to your industry that the people that follow you and the people that are connected to them will find relevant and interesting. And one of my favorite things to do is what I call the super tag. For example, I can start typing your name on LinkedIn in the update section, and that's what they call a short post. So I can do up to 1,300 characters. So I can tag you. And then I can tag a podcast, and I can even do hashtag podcast because LinkedIn is now supporting hashtags. So I can say, did a great hashtag podcast with @RickBrown today, and I can say talking about Mike Shelah Consulting and LinkedIn. So I can tag Mike Shelah Consulting, I can tag LinkedIn. Everybody that follows the hashtag podcast will see that in their feed. Everyone connected to you will see that in their feed. Everyone that follows Mike Shelah Consulting will see that in their feed. Everybody that follows LinkedIn as a platform will see that in their feed.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful. Now, it seems like I've noticed, too, I posted something a couple of days ago where it started putting hashtags, recommended hashtags in for me as I was typing the post.
At the bottom of it, yes,
yeah,
it does that, correct.
Yeah, interesting. In videos, images, are those just as important on LinkedIn as we kind of hear for the other platforms?
Yes. So anytime you can have an image, it's a good idea. Obviously, use good taste, use good judgment, which not everybody has or does. With
that's a
video,
whole other show.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. With video, the important thing is you want to use native video. For example, if you share a YouTube link, if somebody wants to watch that link, what happens?
They're going to get sent to YouTube.
Right. How much do you think LinkedIn likes that?
Right, right.
So their algorithms suppress that content. Whereas if you upload a video directly from your phone or your laptop, that is native video, and it's more friendly to the algorithm. The same thing with posting links to articles or events. If you're going to share a link, write it as a comment to the post. So at the bottom of your 1,300 characters, write, for more information, click link in post. Click link in comments.
Okay, so this is I think really important. So can you explain that again? When you're talking about sharing a link to a story or something outside of LinkedIn? Say that again. Yes. What you just said.
Sure. Let's say you are holding a public workshop in California. You're going to teach people about being an effective public speaker. And the event is on this day, and it's this time, and it costs X amount of dollars. So you've created a registration link for that event, right?
Okay, right.
Instead of posting the link into the 1,300 characters that you have to write in that short-form post, end the short-form post by saying, to register, click the link in the comments, and then make the link the first comment posted.
Interesting. And I've seen people do that, and I never was really clear as to why they were doing that. So
now you know.
The algorithm will suppress, or they're just not going to be quite as friendly to showing your post to as many people with it in the actual post. So instead, you include it in the first comment below.
Correct.
Before we get out of this, I want to go back maybe to one of the most basic things here. And let's talk a little bit about the profile, the LinkedIn profile itself. Now, I'm looking at yours. I've got it up on the screen right now. You've got a nice, clean, thorough profile. You've got, good Lord, you've got over 150 recommendations down here. I'm embarrassed telling you how few I have. But what's the most important part of this profile? What should we really be focusing on in terms of our own profile?
It's two things. It's first, front and center. When you look at my profile, you notice my profile picture, and you notice that banner photo behind it that has all my contact information. Mm-hmm. And then right below that is my name, and then the headline section has all of my keywords relevant to what I do. That's the first impression people have. So if they look at your profile and you have no background photo, or you have a photo of your dog, and your profile picture is not professional, nor is it recent, and under your job title, it says account manager at XYZ Communications. Nobody cares. Nobody cares that you're an account manager or a client executive or owner. Actually, you know who cares that you're an owner?
Who?
Salespeople. That headline should be chock full of the keywords relevant to what your customers want to find. So it's not enough to put keywords in there, but you have to sit in your client's seat for a minute and say, okay, if I wanted to find me, what words would I use? And you want to avoid saying things like, I'm a seasoned, dynamic, team-playing professional that drives revenue strategically for my stakeholders. I mean, how many times have you seen almost verbatim what I just said in someone's profile, and you're like, what on earth does that mean? It sounded good when they wrote it.
Well, that brings me to one question I've kind of, I wonder kind of what your pet peeves are in terms of somebody either setting up their profile or how they're using LinkedIn.
My pet peeve, typos. I see them more and more often. Think about this as your online resume in that regard. Make sure that what you're talking about in your summary matches the job that you currently have. Is it the same company? Is it the right company? If you have a link to your website, is that the company you work for now, or is it the company that you worked for 6 years ago? Mm-hmm. Your profile picture, does it actually look like you? Or is it a picture from 10 years ago, or when you weighed 50 pounds more, or when you weighed 50 pounds less?
Yes, from when I weighed 50 pounds less. Come on.
Yeah, so I have this workshop that I do called the ABCs of LinkedIn, and one of my things is always be current. Go through the little details, click on your See Contact Info button, and look through and say, yep, that's my website, that's my phone number, that's my email, that's my Twitter account, that's my birthday. Yeah, all that information is correct.
Important stuff. Share with us, if you can, we talked about kind of your biggest pet peeves with LinkedIn. How about a success story, somebody that you've helped maybe with using LinkedIn more effectively?
Yeah, I'm very proud to say that those 154 written recommendations that you mentioned, roughly half of them are people that have come to my workshops and written how much they gotten out of it. I could tell you firsthand, for me, a couple of weeks ago, I was handed the task of getting meetings with some clients that don't currently do business with Ricoh. And I'm doing research on the companies, and I look one of them up, and it turns out that the president of this company knows somebody that I used to work with many years ago, and I'm still friends with him. And the client's name was Sean, and my friend's name was Sean. So just keep that straight in your head for a second. So I reach out to him, and I said, hey, Sean, I noticed you're connected to this other guy, Sean, on LinkedIn. Would you mind introducing me? And he writes back, he says, Mike, Sean is my childhood best friend. I just went to the Eagles concert with him last week. What's up? Tell me what you're trying to do. So I told him, we've got this new account list. They want us to go after these specific targeted customers, and his company was on the list. So could you make the introduction? He goes, yeah, I'll do it. And he does, and that guy introduced me to the director of IT at his company, and I have a meeting scheduled to meet with him in 2 weeks.
Very nice. So, again, it kind of goes back to what you were saying about those connections and kind of capitalizing on the connections you already have to make more connections. And I don't think that that's, an alien thought to the world of business and networking. But clearly you've shared some things with us today that we can use LinkedIn to do that a little more effectively. What would you give as kind of your overall, if you only do one thing to improve how you use LinkedIn today, it would be what? One thing. Wow. Okay. Click that big blue Add Profile section button that's just underneath your profile picture and fill out as many of those sections as you can. LinkedIn works like a search engine. It works like Google. And the more pieces you have filled in, the more boxes you check on, the more complete your profile is, the higher you will show up in search rankings on LinkedIn when people go to find you or someone like you. Outstanding. Mike, you've shared a lot of great stuff with us here today. Truly appreciate your time. How can listeners learn more about LinkedIn best practices? I tell people that I'm easy to find. I'm very Googleable once you know how to spell my name, which is Shelah. They can go to my website, which is MikeShelah.com. Naturally, you will find me on LinkedIn. You can send me a connection request. Tell me that you heard me on this podcast. That'd be great. And you can also follow my LinkedIn business page, which is Mike Shelah Consulting. I am on Instagram and Twitter at Mike Shelah. And I have a Facebook business page, which is Mike Shelah Consulting. Well, hey, Mike, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today, man. Thank you for having me on the show, Rick. You bet. And that's it for this episode. Until next time, remember, try not to become a person of success, but rather become a person of value. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.